Well, I'm excited today to be joined by Courtney Arrington. I had the privilege of seeing Courtney begin her career many years ago in public accounting, and it just really admired not only the way she went about doing her work, but also what she's done with her life and trying to make a difference in the accounting community as well as the community at large. And I couldn't be more excited about having her here today. She has a blog, The Accounting Struggle, which I encourage you to go look at. And it really focuses on the younger accountants who are just getting started in our profession, whether it be in public or whether it be in private, and the things that she remembers many years ago, what it was like, and tries to help people. But also Courtney's been a really good voice around diversity and some of the things that have really impacted our community and our country over the last many months. And I've really appreciated the voice that she has on that. So Courtney, thanks for joining me today, and I look forward to the discussion.
Thank you so much for having me, Gary.
Yeah, as I said earlier, I remember the day you walked into our offices several years ago and jumped at your desk as a new CPA candidate and a new tax person. Take us back to those days a little bit, and I'm sure you remember it, but thinking back to that and jumping into your first busy season, what are some of the things that you would want new accountants to remember about, particularly the public accounting experience of what they're getting ready to go through busy season?
Yes, I do remember. I came in with the expectation that I was going to kill it. It was going to go amazing. And, I had just been fresh off of college and my internship. That went really well. And then when I started full time, I didn't even know how much I didn't know. Like, there was so many new concepts. There were a lot more complex clients that I was working on. And I was just kind of taken aback by, wow, I'm not a star. I don't know everything. Wow, I have so much to learn. So that was a very interesting journey, but it was great. I learned so much from working in public accounting. And I would just say for new accountants coming in, going into your first busy season, I think it's just all about recognizing that you have so much to learn, and that every opportunity, even if it's uncomfortable, that it's an opportunity to learn. So just go into it with an open mind.
And not to put you on the spot, but I will say to those who are listening, Courtney knocked it out of the park, mainly because her attitude was so fantastic. She embraced it. And I think that's an important aspect of it, right? Is just embracing that there are long hours and it's a busy time. You're not going to change that, right? So you might as well jump in and make the most of it.
Right.
So Courtney, you had to put up with people like me who were leaders in CPA firms who had been doing this for a long time. And sometimes we kind of got used to it, right? And we didn't always have the perspective of the young accountant. So if you were sitting in a leader's shoes, a managing partner of a CPA firm or a tax leader, an industry leader, an audit leader, someone who leads people, what are some suggestions that you would give them with respect to how to keep your people engaged and encouraged and uplifted and all those things?
I think that one of the things that would be important is just to remain flexible and recognize that there are new, fresh, and innovative ways of doing things and accomplishing the same goals, and that really there's a lot of synergy to be had. Like all of the, I guess the best word to say is like all of the experience and all of the seasoned experience that the leaders have. I think that works really well with the people who are coming in, who are newer, who have these fresh ideas. It's not something that should clash. It really is something that should merge well together. So I think that if leaders just have a very open mind and are willing to achieve the same goals, but in a different way, then I think it will work well together.
You mean we shouldn't say that's the way we've always done it? Just get
correct.
Oh, okay. I got right. You. Okay. So just keeping an open mind there, which really transitions us to another conversation. I mean, we're living in COVID era. We're now almost a year into it, I guess, from the standpoint of how it impacted work. I know that you're working remotely. I know that one of the things that concerns leaders, not only in public accounting, but in industry and everywhere, is just the impact of being remote work on our people. You read a lot now about mental health issues. You learn a lot about people missing being in teams and all those things. Since you're doing this and living through it as well, what are some practical things that maybe you've learned or that you would have as suggestions for people to stay engaged and make sure they don't lose connectivity?
I think one thing that's important, one thing that I've noticed is that it's easier to get lost in work because you're already at home. And so sometimes, like if I didn't have this window here to let me know, okay, it's nighttime again. It was dark when you logged on, now it's dark again. If I didn't have that as a reminder, I may never leave this room sometimes. So I think one thing that we focus on, obviously is the work that we're doing. But I think that another thing that's really important is to check in on each other, literally just maybe once a week for 15 minutes or so, just checking in on your staff or your team and just asking like, how are you doing? Because there is a lot going on in the world and people are impacted in different ways. So just checking in on people. I know it sounds kind of cheesy, but I feel like that would make a huge difference.
Courtney, from my experience, I'd love to walk around, just hello people and give them a hard time, talk about whatever may be on the mind. And I was with a managing partner the other day, and that managing partner realized that while they had made a lot of efforts to keep in touch as a leadership team, there were a lot of people who truly missed having their managing partner or leader walk around the office and say, how's your family? How's your dog? How's your cat? How's your sister? Whatever it is. And they recognize that there's a need for them to personally reach out to some of these staff, just like they would when they were in the office. And it's probably a little bit about what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So I have long admired your leadership when it comes to diversity. You wrote about this back in the days when we worked together. You've been thinking about this a lot. So the episodes that drove our country to think about this last year were not new to you. But for a lot of us in leadership, it was a reawakening, or in some cases, an awakening. Mm-hmm. One of the things that has to be concerning to all of us is that we tend to forget about things. I mean, 6 months out, it's time, we've moved on to something else. But this is a really important conversation, not only for our profession, but for our community. When you think of diversity and inclusion in the public accounting space in particular, what are some practical suggestions you have to leaders and to others to keep this conversation going and to make sure we stay focused on it?
So I think one of the key things is just really making sure that there's an environment where people feel confident and encouraged to be able to have those conversations, something where it feels like a safe space. And I think the way to do that is really through like education and training. Because like you said, there are a lot of people who maybe were not exposed or it wasn't top of mind for them. Of course, me being a woman, being Black, it is always top of mind for me. And I also went to BCU, and diversity lives here is like one of the slogans. So, but for those people who maybe haven't thought about it as much, I think that just having as a part of the culture for a company, I think that would be the way to really impact change and make sure that people feel encouraged and really safe to have their opinions heard. I think that that's probably the most important thing. Instead of tacking it on as like a one-day lunch and learn that's optional, I feel like having it as a part of the training, as a part of the culture, is how you'll really see real impact.
And Courtney, as I think back to when you and I worked together, if I were tackling this, you would be the type of individual that I would reach out to and say, can you get involved? And don't you think this is an opportunity for leaders to grab staff people and younger folks who, like you said, are out of colleges where they probably had much more focus on this, who've lived it like you have as a Black female? Tell me about, would you encourage leaders to reach out to some of the youngest of the young and say, get involved in this issue?
I would. I think that, again, creating that space for them to, feel encouraged to speak on these things and to be involved and to be at the table to have these types of discussions. I think that it would be important for them to do that. I think also finding people who are trained in certain topics, like going to individuals who have backgrounds specifically in diversity and inclusion and equity, and getting people who are qualified to, that have that education and training. I think that bringing all of those pieces together is really important. So, yeah.
That's an excellent suggestion. I've told a lot of managing partners recently, we think of things like this and we want to make them a program. We need to stop thinking about them as a program and think about them as a way of life. Because a program means that there's a start date and an end date more likely than not. That's the way people process that. And this is a situation that we didn't get to overnight. And we're not going to solve overnight. So making it a way of life and habit, including individuals across all the spectrums of diversity, are really important for us.
Definitely.
Well, you know, as our time closes on this, I wanted to give you a chance to kind of talk to those young accountants and talk to the leaders one more time and just say, you know, if I were sitting in your shoes and I was getting ready to go through busy season, you know, these are the things that I would leave you with as my thoughts to encourage you. So it may be a little bit of a repeat from what you said earlier, but let's hit it one more time. What would you be saying to these young accountants, and what would you be saying to these leaders as they get ready to go into a crazy time of year?
To the young accountants, I would say, get ready for a lot of hard work. You don't know everything, and that is perfectly fine. This is a great opportunity for you to learn, to work hard, to get your mistakes out early, and to learn from those. And I think to leaders, just being able to pour into the younger staff, just whatever they would have thought would have been helpful to them when they first started in their careers. Those are the types of things, just taking that extra time to really do the coaching and providing the type of guidance that would have helped. I think that that's what they should be doing with their younger staff.
Courtney, thanks so much for being part of this today. You know, every once in a while, I'll write an article or give a speech about people who have it. You know, what is it? It is that intangible. And from early on, when I got to know Courtney, I could see she had it. So remember this name, folks. She's going to be a leader in our profession for a while to come. And I appreciate you being on here today and taking time away from your busy schedule.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
Bye.